What's up, everybody? I once got busy in a Burger King bathroom. Now let's start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast.
Raise Rewind with Buschman and Drew.
Jansen. That is into center field. Here comes Kiermaier. Phillips has tied the game. Arose Arena coming around. Throw home. Now he stumbles. But the ball gets away. Tampa Bay wins it. Brett Phillips, Game 4 hero.
The sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast. It's gonna be sick.
What's up, everybody, and welcome into the Rays Rewind podcast, the sickest Tampa Bay Rays podcast in all the land, brought to you by the Sick Media Network. I am your host, Buschman. As you can tell, Drew is not here yet again. That's okay. He's with his newborn. They're still in the hospital. Everything's going good, but he's with his new addition to his family. So I told him to take as much time as possible, and he's taking another week. That's fine. I've got plenty of guest hosts to come on, and my current guest host needs an introduction. And this is going to be a lengthy introduction because he's been around town, as per se, in the Tampa Bay area. He once got a Rolex from the troll, Jake Paul. He's a massive Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. He will bring the passion. He won't bring any nonsense. He is the host of the Sports Web. Please welcome to the show, Peter Blake.
What's going
on, buddy? What's going on, man?
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be on your show now because
I know
you're on my show, but you're exactly right. Just grab them in the biscuits. I know exactly what song you were talking about there. The Humpty Dance. I gotta love that. That's how you start off the show.
I always have to start off the show with some kind of stupid nonsense, and then we get into the show. So it's all good, man.
Exactly.
Well, welcome in, everybody. It is once again the Rays Rewind podcast. Make sure to go to our YouTube page at the Sick Podcast, Rays Rewind. Hit that subscribe and notification bell when new episodes drop, which is probably tomorrow when we get a new episode. So yeah, just make sure you subscribe. We've got a good show for you tonight. We will go over the Rays opening weekend, last night's loss to the Rangers. But as we are recording the show, the Rays are up 5-0 against the Rangers, which is awesome. Zach Eflin's dealing. He's looking good. Isaac Paredes hitting 3-run homers off the foul pole. It's looking good. So they're on their way to a victory and going 500, going 3-3 the first week of the season. So Peter, what were your thoughts? And welcome. Yeah, it's so weird. I'm usually on your show. You're on my show now. So you're in like the passenger seat on this show that we call the Rays Rewind. So I wanted to get your thoughts on opening weekend. We did split the series, which I said they would do last week on our show, on my show, the Rays Rewind podcast. What are your thoughts? I mean, it was kind of it was up and down, loss, win. What were your thoughts, good and bad, of the opening series against the Jays?
Well, they're not going to go 13-0, of course. So I hate to burst everybody's bubble, but they lose the first game there. One bad inning by Zach Eflin. Pitching overall, besides Sunday and last night, was pretty good. The concerning thing for me is the walks. And I kind of treat walks as turnovers in sports, right? You give that team, especially a lineup like Toronto and Texas, more ammunition for those second chances. So you got to cut down on those walks. You're not going to be able to win games. Besides that, I think Randy Arozarena, trying to pull everything. And I kind of put this out on my Facebook post because I do a Rays recap where, I talk Rays fans off the ledge there that the season's not over after 5 or 6 games, that if he doesn't pull everything, if he takes it to the other fields, he's going to be a dangerous hitter. And I tell you right now, Buschman, if he continues to play the way he's playing with hitting the ball to the opposite field and driving in runs, we may be talking about an MVP candidate, no lie.
Or we could talk about a huge trade piece if the Rays don't do well halfway through the season, so you never know. Yes. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I went on Saturday. They looked great. Pitching was great. Aaron Savali did a great job on the mound. This was the exact kind of start I wanted to see him do, coming off that really meh of a second half of the season when he came over in that trade for Luke Raley, and his start was good. That's what I wanted to see out of a guy that I think we all, myself and Drew included, we really had kind of some question marks with him because what kind of pitcher is he going to be? How is he going to fit in this rotation? Is he going to be that pitcher that we thought he was coming over from Cleveland? And I think that first start really, it means it's made me feel a little bit better about him going into the season. I want to see him go against better lineups. Now, no shot to the Blue Jays. They've got a great stacked lineup, but I really want to see Savali go against the Yankees in their lineup. I want to see him go against those types of lineups that could be scary going into that. And then, the offense was up and down. I mean, Yandy Diaz, look, the man's got guns, and going the way he did throughout the weekend was great. I mean, that's the way you want to start off the season, going off of a batting title and everything. And then Rainier Rosarena, I mean, 2 dingers so far. That's a good start too. I think the extra push-ups and the extra pull-ups that he did during the offseason, making his arms almost as big as Yandy's are paying off so far. So yeah, I agree with you. I think this team, and plus, what was great about it too was you saw a lot of production from like the lower half of the lineup too. Jose Caballero's pitching again. I mean, those guys that we normally don't get a lot of production from, we saw, and that's good. That's what you want to see. If that front lineup is not going to, put anything production wise, you want to see the back half do it too as well. I was really impressed with how the Rays really kind of stuck with it. Now, I know the 2 losses kind of stung, and Sunday's game and yesterday's game were kind of letdowns, but you're going to have those types of games. And I think this team is still trying to figure out what type of team they are and the identity that they have. Look, if Pepio didn't give up that 3-run shot in the first inning of last night's game, I think that game last night maybe could have ended a little bit differently. Overall, his start was meh, but it's something to build on going forward. What did you think of Pepio last night?
I mean, again, you talk about the first inning, you give up the 3-run shot. You can't afford to do that versus Texas. Consequently, that player who hit the 3-run shot gets hurt later on in the game with a broken hand. So you never want to see that happen unless you are a Rays fan, because he killed him last night. He'll be out for a while. But you're exactly right. A lot of high expectations with Pepio coming over from the Dodgers and getting traded for a Tyler Glass now. So he's definitely got to perform up to snuff. The pitching staff, let's face it, has been hurt by the 3 injuries from last year: McClanahan, Springs, Rasmussen. So those guys got to step up. I thought he was pretty good. He showed flashes of brilliance. He's going to get only better. He's a young pitcher. You talk about Savalier. I mean, first win at the Trop is not a in itself. I mean, and that's the tough thing. That's a tough transition when you trade for a player. He's a good pitcher in Cleveland, but you have to make that transition over, and it's not always that smooth. So first win at the Trop, that's a good thing. They need good quality innings. I thought Zach Littell pitched well, also gives him a quality start, 5 to 6 innings. You love that. And I feel like the more confidence that guy gets, because he was just a guy, right, coming out of the bullpen, the more confidence he gets, the more you go possibly past 6 innings and you don't take him out of that high leverage situation.
I think also too with how the pitching staff was able to go past the 5th inning, when we got all the guys going into the 6th, almost the 7th inning, and that's something that you want to see out of your starters, which we haven't seen in a long time, because usually, they're getting yanked and we're overusing our bullpen, which, our bullpen is kind of like our strong suit now in our rotations now, which has a lot of question marks still. We don't want to overwork those bullpen guys because that's your strength right now. I'm glad that they're finally, Cash and company are kind of letting the reins off a little bit and letting their starters go a little bit deeper in the games than what they have in the past. Now I think that gives them a little bit more confidence too, as okay, we trust you guys going into the latter innings. That way we're not overusing our bullpen, and we're not having to use a patchwork rotation going forward when all of our arms are burnt out. That's what I like to see. It's almost going back to the back in the days of the Rays with Joe Madden, where he had, David Price and James Shields and Scott Kazmir, those guys that would go long into innings and you have to burn out your bullpen. So if this continues, that's going to make the rotation a little bit better. The rust is going to come off a little bit more, and they're going to get a lot more confidence going into the latter half of the season. Pete, I want to get your take on this team preseason, into the spring training. What were your, we haven't talked since football ended, so I kind of want to get your take on what you thought of this Rays team coming into 2024. Did you have a lot of, you had 95 wins as your win total. Are you still standing by this after the first week? Or you staying put at 95? Or you kind of like, maybe they'll hit 91, 90? Where are you still at? Are you still at 95?
I think I'm at 95, but also I'm kind of being a little bit cautious because this division overall is a lot better, right? I mean, Baltimore most likely is the team to beat. We see Toronto, they're improved. You've always got the Yankees there.
Oh yeah, the Yankees have already won the World Series after going 4-0 after sweeping the Astros. They already won.
Oh yeah,
It's already on lock right now.
Right, just like Rays fans were saying, the season's over for the Tampa Bay Rays after 5 or 6 games, which is crazy. It's a long season, everybody. So where are my expectations? They find a way, and I've been very critical of ownership and how they spend. The owner coming out saying it's hard to swallow $90 million. I'm uncomfortable.
He's uncomfortable. He's uncomfortable.
We got to make him more uncomfortable because just imagine here, Bush, if they spent over $90 million, if they spent 15 to baseball, maybe we would be talking about a World Series or 2. But that's neither here nor there. I wish they would have gone out and got themselves a veteran at bat because look, you look at the injuries at the end of the day. Josh Lowe being out, Johnny DeLuca, who they got into that trade. They expected him because you're getting rid of players and you're expecting guys to come in and make contributions right away. And let's face it, Josh Lowe was a player they're looking at. So they're going to have to definitely tread water for the first month. Guys are going to have to step up. Palacios last night, when he hit and run, his first home run, which is a bright spot. Isaiah Paredes hit a home run a couple nights ago, hit a home run tonight. So maybe he's starting to snap out of it there. So what are my expectations? They figure it out, Bush. They always figure it out. We always say, 70, 75 wins, 80 wins, but somehow, some way, they figure out how to get contributions from players that you least expect and those pitching staffs, the pitching staff, the bullpen overall. A guy like Zach Littell is a perfect example. He came out of nowhere. Who's the next pitcher on this staff? Is it the guy that pitched last night who you have high expectations for in a Ryan Pepio to step up here? They find a way, 90 to 95. I'm going with 95. You know me. I'm an eternal optimist when it comes to the Bucks, when it comes to the Lightning, and when it comes to the Rays, no matter ownership or not.
That's true. I've known you for a long time. You stand by what you say, so that's totally true. Yeah, I going back to where the rotation's at. I mean, I was talking today with a friend about the rotation. He was saying, that the rotation's not looking good. I'm like, it's hard to judge after 5 games. We're now in the 6th game, of course, going in tonight when this show is being recorded. And once again, this is the Rays Rewind podcast on the Sick Media Network. You can take a look at the 6 games we've played so far, and I would say Rays Twitter and Rays Facebook people pump the brakes on the whole. So we're only going to win about 75 games, 80 games. We're not. It's like, listen, you can't always start the season 13-0. You can't always start the season like this. Somebody tweeted out today, the last time the Rays started off, under 500, they went to the World Series, and that was in 2020. So that wasn't too long ago, everyone. That was only 4 years ago. So let's pump the brakes on the season's over already. I think with the guys that they have right now, and look, you're going to get guys back soon. Like Taj Bradley's going to be back pretty soon. Shane Baz is going to be back pretty soon. Josh Lowe is going to be back pretty soon. They've got guys waiting in the wings right now that are going to make super contributions when they come back. And then you got so much depth in there that, if they're not making contributions now, they will be later. Look, Junior Caminero went down with a hip injury, but he's going to be okay. I mean, that's a guy that's probably going to be up sooner than later after that injury, and how he's already raking so far in AAA right now. Let's relax. As Aaron Rodgers would say, let's relax. You guys can just, take your little Rays pillow and just kind of sleep a little bit easier on each night.
Suck your thumb.
It's
okay. It's all right.
But I think this division is too, and me and Drew talked about this on our preseason show, was, look, it's after Baltimore, which I think Baltimore, to me, right now is really the complete team in the AL East. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th is pretty much wide open. And I'm critical like you are, Peter. Like I'll be the critical of the Rays. Like, look, they have to step up and be on the level of Baltimore if they want to make the playoffs. Now, look, the Yankees are the Yankees. Look, they have one of the stacked lineups of guys hitting dingers and stuff like that, but Garrett Cole's probably not going to be coming back anytime soon. He's month to month, and he could go longer than that if he has to go for TJ. He could be gone for another year if that hasn't happened. And we all know the Yankees, their pitching isn't their strong suit. And that's what happened last year with the Yankees, was they didn't have strong pitching. When it comes to the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, they might be in the bottom of the barrel, but for the Rays, it's your time to step up and compete with the Baltimore Orioles for that top spot. And I think they can with a lot of the guys that they have that are just waiting to come back. Now, of course, Springs and Rasmussen won't be back till after the All-Star break, but depending on how the team does, that's perfect timing for them to come back and hopefully make a run into the playoffs with fresh arms that you could use in the bullpen as middle relievers or closers, or bring them in for long innings eaters after that opener spot. So the team's in a good place where they're at with the guys that they have not right now. And for all the people that are just overreacting, last, like, do you not watch the Rays at all? Do you not watch this team when it comes to being resilient and finding ways to win and finding ways to do it in the weirdest ways possible? Analytics aside, they find the weirdest ways to win. And we saw that last year too as well. Winning right now is good, especially against the Texas Rangers. I mean, they're winning 5-1 right now. It's the bottom of the 7th, which is good. So hopefully they hang on to that lead as we record this show right here. I think flip-flopping into this season from last year, they had one of the easiest schedules as an opener in 2023. Now you go into 2024, it's one of the hardest schedules to open up April with. I would say this team's performed pretty well so far. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they definitely have performed well. And you go back to it, the teams that are going to be around, that are going to be competitive the whole season and throughout the postseason. And I know, the Rays have been bounced out the first round because of their offense. It's pitching and defense, and they got that. And that's what gives you hope. Now, maybe Alexander, the starter on Sunday, didn't have it, and I'm not sure what you expect from him. Sean Armstrong coming in as a
I think with that it's you kind of have to go a bullpen day and see how it does. Will Alexander get another shot? I don't know. If Taj Bradley was healthy, he'd be the guy starting that game. And we all saw what Taj Bradley did over the spring, and he was looking pretty good going into the season. If it wasn't for that injury, he'd be the guy starting on Sunday, and that game probably would have ended differently. So I think, Kevin Cash is probably going to tool that whoever's going to be the 4 starter and just kind of toy with it, maybe play around, maybe just do an opener one day and then do the rest of the bullpen, and we'll see how that goes. I just think with the lineup that they have, the offense is my biggest concern because, the 2 games that they won against the Blue Jays, they put up more than 5 runs. And then the games they lost, it was like 1 run. Are you concerned about, I wouldn't even say concerned, going into the season, do you think this offense is going to be like the offense that we had last year, or is this going to be a little bit different? Now, this offense is a little bit different from last year with all the new players coming in, and hopefully Brandon Lau can hit more dingers like he did on Saturday with the Grand Slam. These are guys that we want them to step up, especially going into 2024 because of, the down year that, Brandon Lau is. Do you think the production could be there, or is this going to be the same? Oh, we might have scored like 2-3 runs a game with this Rays offense.
It could be. It could definitely be because it has the potential, right? I mean, Jose Siri, he gets on base. That's what he needs to kind of focus on, right? His on base. We know that he can hit the dingers, but if he gets on base, he can use that speed. He stole 2 bases the other day, second and third. You saw Randy Arozarena. So for the rules alone, and how they favor the Rays and that speed, I definitely think you could put some runs together. But I don't think that bad mojo, if you will, from last postseason carries over. To answer your question, they got to get more contributions other than just Yandy Diaz and Randy Arozarena. You're exactly right. Brandon Lau, the reason why you put him in that lineup, you don't trade him, is because he does have that home run power. And we've seen him get on stretches where he hits home runs in bunches. We've also seen where he can strike out and not hit the ball out of the infield. So it definitely comes down to him. Josh Lowe getting back as soon as possible. The new guys contributing. You talk about the shortstop. You also talk about the utility guy. And it escapes me right now. The right fielder that they got, the new guy.
Ahmed Rosario right there. He's been a pleasant surprise so far. So I think those guys and those contributions, but for the rules alone here, Bush, I think it favors the Rays, especially if Siri and Arozarena can not only try to focus on the long ball, but getting on base. You can make those things happen. And we saw that the last couple of games, especially in that weekend series versus the Blue Jays. Yeah, one of the things that Kevin Cash and company did say before the season started was this is a team that's going to be running a lot. And you nailed it right on the head is, we want to get these guys on base, the guys that are the speedsters, like, the Jose Series and the Jose Caballeros. These are the guys that we want on base because they're going to be running and they're going to be stealing bases too. I mean, the Rays don't need a lot of power. They just need to have small ball. And to me, I think small ball play that way is a lot better than just relying on dingers, because we've seen that with Brandon Lau. To me, look, I clown on Brandon Lau all the time because I think he's Carlos Pena 2.0. He's either boom or bust. He's either a home run or is he a strikeout. So, but if he can return to form like we saw a couple of years ago where he hit 39 home runs, and then you have Josh Lowe come back where he's a big lefty, you have him in there, and to me, he's on the verge of being a breakout star. And if you have him back in the lineup, that's just making your lineup even better, having him in there. It's just concerning to me he's having a hip injury already as a young guy. And hip injuries are really tough to come back with because of the motions that you are when you're hitting and also fielding too. But I think as we go back to it, once again, the Rays will find a way. Was I disappointed they didn't really go out and get a veteran big bat? That's they don't do that. I mean, I think after the Pat Burrell thing back in the day, trying to, gotten him as a free agent, I think the Rays still have a bad taste in their mouth after that. So I think going out in free agency and trying to get a big bat that was available, I think the Rays are just, no, I have too much, PTSD from Pat Burrell. This is no way I'm going to do that.
Oh,
no.
That was in 2009.
I know, but still, hey, that's still it can still linger on, Peter. I know it's a long time ago, but for us that remember Pat Burrell and the debacle that was
terrible. He was absolutely terrible, and they paid the money, and I get that. And they just were, getting off a World Series appearance versus the Phillies, where he killed them.
He killed them.
And he doesn't do anything. And it's so typical sometimes with free agents. You think you're going to get what you pay for from the postseason, and it just takes that postseason for you to cash that big check. But it doesn't always guarantee success. But you like to see them go after that. What about a JD Martinez, who's been mentioned a lot? I mean, that's
what I said in the offseason too. I mean, he was available. You can get him on a 1-year deal. All you have to do is have him just go out there and hit. But of course, the Rays don't want to spend the money. So it's, do you want to be more uncomfortable with more on your payroll for a guy that just has to hit? I mean, or do you want to be semi uncomfortable with the lineup that you have? I mean, that's all Stewie and Co's, thing is we don't want to spend too much money, or it's just going to be too uncomfortable where it's just like almost like a bad body itch. That's where it's at. That's where it's always going to be.
He talks about being uncomfortable, but yet he's comfortable enough about, a $2.4 billion new stadium. And to me, it is so frustrating to hear it. And I get it. There's Rays fans out there say, well, this is the Rays way. This is what they do. I'm like, change it up a little bit. Maybe if you change it up, but it's neither here nor there. They are what they're going to be. You hope that they're in contention, which I think they will at the trading deadline. Could they invest some money? It would be nice. Nelson Cruz, they probably still have a bad taste in their mouth. He was washed up. He was their big move, going all in. I'm not ready to give up on making that big move at the trading deadline, but you're exactly right. They're going to have to go with these young players. This is the Rays way. And a junior Caminero will probably be important here. Maybe not this month, but the next couple months. And he's one of the young superstars that you refuse to trade for a guy like Shohei, which I don't know if they were ever in that conversation. There was talk from Bob Nightingale of USA Today that they were ready to deal him for a Shohei, but that's the reason why you don't deal prospects, because eventually you're going to depend on him. And if he's as good as advertised, and we know the Rays do a good job when it comes to prospects, maybe more pitching than hitting, if you will, besides
I wouldn't, you know what, Pete, I wouldn't have bet on it. I mean, for Shohei, I wouldn't have bet on it at all. I wouldn't have put any money on that. No.
Oh, you wouldn't bet on that at all?
Nah, I mean, maybe he would have, but I wouldn't have bet on that. I mean,
but he had nothing to do with it at all. I mean, there's no gambling in baseball.
Of course not. No, of course not. I still wouldn't
gambling in baseball. Didn't Tom? Oh, that's no crying in baseball.
I'm crying in baseball.
Yeah, no crying in baseball. Tom Hanks, A League of Their Own. You know that movie. But the gambling thing. That could be a black eye, and you definitely don't want that to happen to Ohtani. But that was talked about last trade deadline. Would they trade one of their top prospects? And they're not going to trade Caminero, so you're going to have to depend on him. And that's the Rays way. That's the reason why you don't spend. You go out in free agency. You get your players, if you can, on bargain basement deals. And then you also depend on those young players throughout the season, and you hope you're in contention. And usually, the Rays are. Now, when they get to the postseason, it's a totally different story. But we're talking about the regular season here.
I'm talking about regular season.
Yes. Not ready. I'm jumping the gun here. I'm so
It's
excited.
okay. It's okay. You're right. You're on the show. This is your first appearance on the show. Before we end the show, Peter, I want to get into the stadium talk. We've heard so much about this,
Yeah.
where it's back and forth. They may have had a deal in place. Now it's kind of up in the air. The vote has to come in. Real politics aside, realistically, do you think they're going to break ground at the end of the year for a new stadium? Do you think that's going to happen, or are we just going to go back to the drawing board? Now, I know Tampa has said they would step in if the deal falls through. Do you think it's going to happen?
I mean, if St. Pete is willing to give them all the money that they want, then yeah. And that's the thing that Stu has always wanted. This ownership has always wanted the best deal for them. So if the city of St. Pete is willing to do it now, it comes down to the votes of the St. Pete Council. And by the way, I'm a little bit biased because I'm an admin of I Love St. Pete on Facebook. 177,000 people that follow that platform. So, yes, I would like to see it built in St. Pete. I would like it to stay in Tampa. If it's not going to be built in Tampa, it gets built in St. Pete only if those votes go through a course. And if the city of St. Pete is willing to pay all that money, and it certainly looks like the mayor, Ken Welch, doesn't want to be the guy that lost the race. So there's an emotional attachment there. I feel like the way Stu and this ownership looks at business when it comes to fans in the area overall, that fans and also the politicians should look the same way from a business aspect instead of an emotional aspect, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes sense. And I think I'm hoping they'll get the deal done. I mean,
No.
I was kind of against them keeping it in St. Pete. I always said, like, hey, put this in Tampa, over in the Tampa side, which, you're going to have a bigger market. You're going to have a bigger spot to at least put a stadium in, and then you're going to draw from the crowds that go to the Lightning game and also the Bucks game too. But I just want them to get it done. I think we're all to the point where it's just like, hey, we've talked about this for so much and gone through so much with all the dog and pony shows and all the stupid ideas like the sister shitty plan. Let's just get something done and have in place. That way this team stays for generations upon generations. So I think that's where we're at. And, I will say this, look, they're doing what they can to keep fans coming to the stadium. The opening series was great against the Blue Jays. They had great crowds all 4 games. Even last night at the Monday night game, they had 14,000 there on a Monday. You don't see that on a Monday night usually. 14,000. So I think the marketing is getting there with bringing fans to the Trop. They've really added a lot of new things for this year too, a lot of new food options too as well. And the concert series is back once again. So bringing those families in there and bringing the type of atmosphere they want to bring in there is starting to creep in, where you're going to see more Rays fans come to the Trop than you are going to see those snowbirds that are just annoying and stay around here in Tampa Bay and everything. So.
Yeah, the Yankees and the Red Sox and Toronto Blue Jays fans that are here for spring training. You're exactly right. And my biggest question is, Bush, that if you do get this new stadium in St. Pete, do your spending habits change? Do you start to invest? Not only asking, the city of St. Pete and all their constituents, if you will, to be those taxpayers to pay the cost, but do their spending habits change? Do you start to become more aggressive when it comes to free agency? Do you start to become more aggressive to sign your own players so you don't lose fan favorites every year? Or does it work out like a situation with the Miami Marlins, which is a complete disaster? You got your new stadium down there. I get it. They got 2 World Series championships. But Bush, ever since they got that new stadium, they have been absolutely dreadful. So
yeah, I think the spending habits do have to change. If you're going to build a shiny new stadium, you want to have butts in the seats, and you have to increase payroll. You have to sign those big name players to come here, and you also have to extend those players that are the fan favorites and not trade them away for prospects. Now, I know prospects are great, and they're there to build your future, but for the fans that invest in the players that they love, like, with like past players like Carl Crawford and David Price and Evan Longoria, and even now Tyler Glass, now that was traded away last year, is you have to invest in those players. That way the fans will keep coming and coming. Because I know I see this a lot on social media, like the fans, they traded away my favorite player. I got his jersey. Well, that's why I don't buy jerseys with people's names that aren't mine on the back.
Well, there you go. And I was talking to Dennis Phillips of ABC Action News, meteorologist, big time Rays fan. And he said he stopped having season tickets to the Rays. Why? Because Bush, they traded Evan Longoria and he couldn't forgive them for that. So it's tough to be a Rays fan because every other year you get rid of that fan favorite. Yeah. Can you imagine if you signed some of those guys? Namely, how about a Ben Zobrist who goes to the Kansas City Royals, who, by the way, weren't spending money. They go all in. They spend over $100 million. Guess what? They win a World Series that year. Goes to the Cubs, who go all in. You win another World Series. That's another fan favorite. Wade Davis. The list goes on and on and on. So that's my question. If you get that new stadium, do your spending habits change? Do you start to become more invested in the team? Or does it continue to be the same? Well, I'm uncomfortable with spending $90 million. Whoa, wait a minute. No. You just got your brand new stadium. You said you needed that stadium in order to be competitive in baseball. Let's see it. Let's have it, Stu. Let's go out there and make the move. Sign your own fan favorites. And fans should be asking for this. They should demand this. They should hold the Rays accountable, just like they hold the Tampa Bay Lightning accountable, just like they hold the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the standard's been set. The blueprint is out there, and it's time for the Rays to follow it. And if they do get that new stadium, that's where fans should be thinking and taking that emotional attachment out of it, being detached and saying, hey, you got your new stadium. Let's talk about business now. Sign your fan favorites, sign free agents. Let's go after the Yankees. Let's go after the Red Sox. Let's go after the Baltimore Orioles and, of course, the Toronto Blue Jays. Let's compete in baseball. Let's not just want to go to the playoffs every year and be competitive and win a division or a wild card or hang up a banner for a wild card. Let's
not getting the wild card banner thing.
Let's go. Let's go for the World Series here. How about that? World Series banner. I'd rather see that than that damn wild card banner. Come on.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the spending habits have to change because, look, I when I see people complain about how they invested in the players, like I get it, they're fan favorites, but I'm a fan of the team. And if they trade away somebody, look, it's business as usual. I've been watching this team for so long where it's like, hey, if somebody gets traded away, it's like, all right, well, it's business as usual. Let's move on and try to win some games after that. But I do agree with you. And, I think for the newer generations coming up, it's like, look, they invest, they buy. You have to supply, and you have to supply those players that are going to be here in the long term, and then bring in the big name players to compete in the AL East. Which look, the Rays do compete every single year in the AL East. It's just getting over that hump to get back to the big show again, like we did a few years ago against LA. It's just getting back there again. It's like, okay, past couple of years, it's that wild card that always gets us, and we don't do anything offensively. So what's it going to take? And hopefully we can get back, to the big game this year. So we'll see going forward.
Yeah,
so
you want to go back into the time machine, 2008. You don't make that trade for a Bay at the time. Jason Bay. Could you imagine him in that lineup? I get it. You're going to get rid of some prospects. I think Desmond Jennings, Jeremy Hellickson's in that deal, some other guys. But really, are you going to lose sleep with losing those guys if you win a World Series? You saw how cold that lineup was. That goes all the way back to 2008. Look at 2020. How that lineup went a little bit cold, right? So if you have that extra player or two or that extra pitcher, and we've seen it. We saw last year with the Texas Rangers making those key trades at the deadline. I love the Rays. I'm a fan of the Rays. I got freaking Tropicana in the back. I've been watching them since 98. I just want them to friggin' go for it and win a World Series. Is that passionate enough?
No, that's passionate. I think so. I think that's a good way to end the show. Actually, before we end the show, I want to get your prediction where the Bucks going to go in the draft this year.
I think it's a dead giveaway because they went in to free agency and got 2 guards. Okay. So do you draft a guard? Do you draft a center at 26? I guess you could go
I go edge rusher. I go edge.
Exactly. Because who do you have to replace Shaq Barrett? JTS? We've seen that. That experiment isn't going to work. You have those building blocks with the Yaya Diaby and the Kalijah Kancey and, of course, the Vita Vea. You need another guy on that side. I think you go edge. And look, if Jared Verse, and this is just me talking as a Florida State fan, if he somehow happens to drop down just a little bit, do you get a little itch there, if you will? Because you were just talking about the itch. To trade that 3rd-round pick that you got for Carlton Davis to get up there and get a Jared Verse, can you imagine a Jared Verse on that defensive line with Yaya Diaby, Kalijah Kancey, possibly maybe even a Chop Robinson, depending on, or you may have the in-house options. But I still think you go, the biggest need at this point, in my opinion, is edge. I think you go 26. And if somebody drops down, because Todd Bowles was talking about this during the meetings, and he gave it away, defensive players are going to drop down because all those quarterbacks, all those wide receivers, maybe there's somebody. Remember, O.J. Howard, right? He wasn't. And
that guy.
Listen, I hated the move, but at the time, the value was he was a top 10 guy, and he drops all the way down to 19. And of course, the Bucs take him instead of Dalvin Cook, and the rest is history. Should have taken Dalvin Cook. I'm saying that not just because I'm a Florida State fan, because it was the right move. With that being said, you never know who's going to drop down at 26. If there's an edge player, is it a defensive player? You're exactly right. The biggest need for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at this point, at this juncture, is edge.
All right. Well, Pete, I appreciate you coming on the show. Please plug where everybody can find you at.
Yeah, absolutely. The Sports Web, Monday, Wednesday night, the evolution of sports talk television. I love St. Pete. Friend me at Peter H. Blake. Like and subscribe to the Sports Web on YouTube. Do 3 things. You know them, you love them, you got to have them. Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake, your Rolex reporter. What time is it? It's my time. And for fans of the Sports Web and the Tampa Bay sports fan, it's your time.
Is that Rolex still working? Have you actually, is it certified real?
Yeah, it's real.
Okay.
It's worth over $20,000 and probably more. And listen,
just cash that in. You don't need the watch. Just cash it in.
Says that, and I'm like, what are you talking about? He's about to fight Mike Tyson and possibly the most viewed boxing match ever on Netflix. I'm going to try to get there. Thank the guy for the Rolex. Hopefully he beats Tyson. I think he'll be able to. Tyson at 58 years old. And then that Rolex.
All right, that's another show because I am so totally opposite on you. Come on, Peter. Come on.
We're going to talk about this tomorrow, maybe.
All right, good. All right, good.
Show, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for being my co-host tonight, guys. Thanks once again for tuning to the Rays Rewind podcast. You can join us every single week here on the Sick Media Network. Make sure to go to our YouTube page and hit that subscribe notification bell at the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind. For myself and for Peter Blake, we'll see you next time on the Rays Rewind.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Rays Rewind with Buschman and Drew on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.